Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are heading out into the open water. Now, when you think of maritime law, you probably picture dusty old books and really dry, bureaucratic rules. But the reality is actually a lot more like a high seas adventure. Today, we're exploring the dynamic legal code that acts as the absolute lifeblood and shield for the modern mariner, setting the stage for a bright and secure cinematic world on the water.
It really made me wonder, who protects the people who actually work out there on the open ocean? I mean, when you're thousands of miles from shore, surrounded by literally nothing but the vast rolling blue, the laws of the land can feel very, very far away. But the immense scale of the ocean absolutely demands a rigid protective order. We're talking about a system that ensures no matter how isolated a vessel might be, safety, justice, and order are always right there on board.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our cinematic map for today. First, we'll be defining the serving seafarer. Second, we'll look at the right to justice. Third, securing the ship's borders. And finally, the ultimate rule of safety.
All right, let's meet the protagonist of our story in Part 1, Defining the Serving Seafarer, which comes directly from Section 94 of the Maritime Legal Code.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is exactly who holds this title and the specific duration of their legal shield. You might naturally assume a seafarer's protection begins the second they step onto the ship and ends the moment they step off. But actually, no. The law states a seafarer is protected starting from the date of their agreement, all the way through their discharge, and then, here's the kicker, it heroically extends for an additional 30 days. Their legal shield doesn't just vanish at the dock, it completely follows them, ensuring they are totally protected as they transition back to life on land.
And this legal shield is incredibly practical. Say there's a dispute over a contract or wages while a sailor is halfway across the world. Well, the code ensures that any seafarer involved in litigation is granted explicit, guaranteed protection. It legally requires that they are provided the prescribed facilities and terms to handle their legal affairs. It creates this bright, secure environment where a sailor's rights are absolutely never compromised just because the profession keeps them constantly on the move.
Moving right along to the conflict resolution of our story in Part 2, The Right to Justice. This is Section 95, covering making complaints at sea.
Picture the tension of a dispute happening on a vessel completely isolated from the rest of the world. How on earth do you seek justice when the courthouse is literally an ocean away? Well, the law dictates a very strict procedure that unfolds kind of like a scene in a movie. If a seafarer needs to complain against the master or a crew member, they state their desire. Then, the very moment the vessel arrives at a place with a judicial magistrate of the first class, the master is legally obligated to send the complainant to shore under proper protection so they can make their case safely.
But, there's a really fascinating caveat here. This action must be taken as soon as the service of the vessel shall permit. This is exactly where the law perfectly balances human rights with the unyielding practical reality of the ocean. A ship can't exactly just stop in the middle of a massive squall to facilitate a complaint, right? So while justice is absolutely guaranteed, the operational survival of the ship itself has to come first.
Let's move to and see how this builds in Part 3, Securing the Ship's Borders. This is Section 96, Defending the Fortress. When that open ocean journey ends at an Indian port, the vessel essentially transforms into a highly secure, floating fortress. And the law takes these borders incredibly seriously. Basically, unless you are in government service or duly authorized by law, you cannot just stroll onto a commercial vessel. Whether it's an overly aggressive merchant trying to sell goods or a stowaway trying to slip by, going on board without the explicit permission of the master is a direct breach of those borders, and the code grants the master immense power to deal with it.
What I found truly amazing is the sheer authority granted here. The text states, "The master may take such person into custody and deliver him up forthwith to a police officer." I mean, wow. The master doesn't just politely ask an intruder to leave. They have the power to literally detain them on the spot and hand them over to a judicial magistrate. It's a massive, powerful deterrent that keeps the ship totally secure from outside threats.
And that brings us to the final and most crucial act of our explainer, Part 4, The Ultimate Rule of Safety. Section 97, which deals with misconduct endangering life or the vessel.
And this brilliantly illustrates the strict moral and legal code of the high seas. When you're dealing with massive vessels, volatile cargo, and the totally unpredictable forces of nature, there is zero room for misconduct. The law creates two extreme sides to a seafarer's duty. On one hand, you have the absolute prohibitions. A seafarer must never knowingly do anything that tends to the immediate loss, destruction, or serious damage to the vessel or endangers life. But equally, you are bound by what you absolutely must do. You cannot refuse or omit any lawful, proper act required to preserve the vessel or life from danger. Basically, doing nothing to stop a disaster is treated with the exact same legal gravity as actively causing one. You are legally bound to be a protector.
And this protective net is just incredibly vast. I mean, it applies to any seafarer on an Indian vessel, no matter where it happens to be on the planet. Simultaneously, it applies to any seafarer on literally any other vessel while it happens to be in Indian waters. Its singular, brightly illuminated purpose is to prevent immediate danger to life or injury to absolutely anyone on board.
So the crucial point is this. Sections 94 through 97 of the Maritime Legal Code are definitely not just red tape. They are the foundational rules that create a safe, highly structured, and entirely secure environment for our seafarers. Far from being some gloomy, dangerous, lawless frontier, the legal reality of the open ocean is one of guaranteed protections, strict safety mandates, and immediate access to justice.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Think about everything you own. Think about everything you buy at the store. So much of it originally arrived via the ocean. How do these incredibly strict, highly choreographed rules of the sea quietly shape the safety and reliability of the massive global economy we rely on every single day? Because without these exact protections, global maritime trade simply wouldn't be possible. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep asking the big questions.